In this session, we're going to go through step by step how to create an interactive 3D work instruction. We're also going to talk about some of the best practices for putting these together. So let's get started. First thing, we're going to be using Pages 3D Professional for this example. Our result is going to be using Reader 3D on the shop floor, the document that we create, and we'll be starting out from a template and we'll be modifying that template. So let's hit, under the Pages 3D Getting Started screen, let's hit the New from Template, and we're going to pick a template to start with. This doesn't mean that this template is the only thing that we can work with. We're going to actually modify the template to our own needs. So let's go ahead and grab one here. Instructions. I'm going to pick this interactive assembly. If you look over here and you click through here, we have 3 different pages that this starts out with. We're going to actually modify those, and then we'll save back our own template for future use. So interactive assembly, we'll hit next, and then we're going to browse and pick our model. In this case, we're going to use a DWF model. It's here, standard DWF. You can see there's a number of different file formats that you can import from, including SolidWorks, Inventor, Pro-E, SketchUp. There's many others there. So let's hit open. As you can see, this is a 3-page template. We can look at the scroll bar over here to tell that. We'll flip through those in just a second. If you look on the first page here, we have a view of the 3D model that we imported. It's interactive. I can use my left mouse button to rotate the object. I can use the right mouse button to zoom, and the middle mouse button can pan. You'll also notice that there's page layout elements all around the model here, and we'll get back to editing this in just a second. I'm first going to quickly flip through what we got with the template automatically. The second page of this template is a bill of materials. We will edit that a little bit as we go through in the creation process here. And then the third page is a very simple text one. We can at any time double click these boxes to edit the text, or you can actually copy and paste text from another application or import the text from a doc file or something. We'll do a little bit of example of that along the way too. So let's go back to our first page here. We're going to, initially, we want to tweak out our master page. We do that from the layout ribbon. Under layout, we will pick master page, and this will go into an editing mode, and you can see at this point we can now click on any of these fields. We're actually going to cut. I'm going to right click and cut the company one down here because we're going to actually insert a graphical image. So I'm going to do an insert image, and then we'll just drag that out down here, and we'll pick this little generic company logo for our template in this case. And then we can resize this. Right now you'll notice that it's sticking to the margins. If I don't want that, I can come down to this area and I can adjust things. I can turn the grid on and off. I can turn the margins off, which is what I kind of want to do. And I want to adjust the grid just a little so it's a little more fine, and then we'll get a little more room to work with our logo down here. So let's turn the margins back on now that we've put that in place. And then we can go in and type in maybe the title of our document. So this is a gripper. We're going to type in gripper work instructions. Let's see, if I happen to misspell it along the way, it'll give me this underlined squibbly red indicator and offer me some options for the spelling. You also might want to go put in your part number or something. So that's all the editing we're going to do to this master page. The rest looks okay to me. You might want to change the document description. This would be, we would say, deliver to the shop floor using Reader 3D. There we go. And then when we're done, when we're in these editing modes, a lot of times there'll be a button here called Done that you can click to get out of the master page in this case, and it goes back to the full editing of the document itself. On page 1, we want to rework this page, so we're going to do a few things here. First of all, let me explain how everything works. There's an edit page mode, and that allows you to actually move elements on the page. If you see I click this view, I get handles for resizing and replacing it. So let's just go ahead and move this over here a little bit, maybe put it right here. That'll give us room to place another object over here that we'll do in a second. We're not going to use the buttons on this page, so I'm just going to delete those. So I select the first one, then I hold down Shift to continue selection, and then I just hit the delete key. So let's go ahead and make use of that extra space that we created that way. Go ahead and pull that on down, and we have a bigger area for our 3D view. The other mode is when you turn edit page off, you can then orient your model. So I can work with my model like you would in a viewer application or something. The viewpoint ribbon, which is on most of the ribbons, viewpoint ribbon group, which is on most of these ribbons, allows you to change the moding of the mouse or to pick from preset views like isometric view, and gives that crisp view. There's also dimetric, standard ones there. If you want other options for your viewpoints, you can open up the viewpoint panel, and this gives you extra options. So you can take an isometric, for example, and look at it from a different viewpoint by picking these different boxes along the way. Another thing is we could take a front view, and then we could offset it by a certain amount, typing in a number and hitting tab, and then tilting the camera another number. So you can set in precise views using these tools as well. So let's just go back to an isometric view of that one there for now. I'm looking at the ribbon real quick in Pages 3D, just to help you get a better understanding of the user interface. From left to right, it generally is working with the page elements. You're going to insert on this insert ribbon different objects onto your document page. Layout gives you some control of how the theme's used, what color schemes you're using. Working on the master page, setting up margins and columns. Illustrate is when you start to really work with the 3D. So let's begin by capturing 3 views of our model here. There's the first one. So when we do this, let's show our storyboard so we have a good idea of what's going on. Each time you capture a view, or you capture what we call illustrations, it will capture the viewpoint, the exploded state, the render style, that is how the model is set up to be rendered, and other attributes of that view. So if I hit, let's actually go and tweak our render style first. I'm just going to change the background to white. I kind of like working with a white background. And that's all we'll do for now. So we go back to Illustrate, and if we hit New, what that does is it captures, we'll call this the gripper view, just gripper, or assemble the gripper, because these are going to be work instructions. And we hit OK. And what that will do is it'll create a thumbnail down here indicating a saved off illustration. At any time, I may have an arbitrary viewpoint set up in here. At any time, I can click this and bring that view back into play. Now let's go ahead and create a few configurations. We're going to use these later for our work instructions. One of the best practices for working with large models, this is not a large model obviously, but for working with larger models is to take the model and put it into different configurations so that you can work with subsets of parts along the way. It's really difficult to take a 1,000-part model and do an assembly process using all 1,000 parts at all parts of your process setup. So what we do typically with Quadraspace software is that the customer will set up different configurations. We're just going to simplify this, and we're going to take a configuration for this component. This is a subassembly, which makes it really easy for us to create the configuration. And let's just call this Assemble Linear Actuator. And we'll say OK. And that creates a configuration of just that set of parts. I can right-click this now, and if I hit Show All, you will notice that it does not bring back the entire object. It only brings back these parts that are part of that configuration. So let's grab an illustration of that and capture that. And this is where we will actually say assemble linear actuator. And you'll notice it created a new thumbnail down here, and then populates that. If we want to edit any of those, if you notice it's not quite in the center of my view, I could right click, edit this illustration. And now we can, since we have this orange border here, this is indicating that anything we change here is going to be captured in the illustration, the named illustration. So I'm going to move that there and zoom in a little bit, give ourselves just a little better view. And then let's move on and do our final hit done to say we like what we captured there. And then we're going to move on and do a final last configuration using this motor. I'm going to use a little different method for creating it. As I said earlier, configurations can be any arbitrary set of parts. It was convenient for us that the second configuration, the linear actuator here, was a subassembly. It made it very convenient for us to set that configuration up. But in this case, I'm just going to select these parts, and we're going to go to the configuration ribbon, and we're going to say new configuration from selected parts, and we'll call this the motor. And you can see that it captured just those parts. So let's zoom in on that and then grab an illustration of that. New assemble motor. You can see that as I type in, it's changing the text red. The red's indicating that the spelling does not match a word in the dictionary. And then once I type in R, it doesn't have it red anymore, so it's not. So it has a spell checker built into many of the text entry fields. Okay, so we captured the final one for this page, and we're going to, you can see now we can pull any of these back, any of these views back, and we're going to set up, at this point, a clickable table on this page that will allow us to select these from within the reader very easily without having to use an interface element. It'll be right there. So let's go to our insert ribbon, and what we're going to do is insert a illustration table, and this will kick us over into that edit page mode that I mentioned earlier. And let's go back to a little more coarse on our things here on the grid, and then to make this table we just drag it out, and it asks, do we want to interact with the 3D view? And yeah, that's what we're trying to do at this point, so we'll just say OK, and this will automatically, if you'll notice, it took these illustrations and we now have clickable buttons. If I go back into, I double clicked to go and turn off edit page. That's another way to do this. You can toggle edit page by toggling this button, or I can double click a view and it'll kick it over into the edit page mode, double click it again, and it comes back out of that, which allows you to test your interactivity. So if I click on assembly gripper, you'll notice that it'll animate itself to that illustration. This name here ends up in the table, and at this page we've got a page here that's telling us the overall process. Actually, the process would be to create this motor, create the linear actuator, and then the gripper. So to get that in place, we can just take and we're going to move this guy, that illustration as the first one, and then we'll move this one to the middle. And we go back up here and look, we'll now have a proper process sequence. Let's actually label this column as a process sequence. So I double click and we'll go back into editing of the page mode, and I'm going to move that down to here, and we're just going to insert a regular old text box above it and type in some text. So we now have a cursor, and we just are going to type in process sequence, and we'll be done with this page pretty soon here. Let's just change our font, give it a little bit more of a title font, bold it, and now we go back and double click again and we can take a look at what we've created. So there's our first page, and we have a nice little page that tells everybody here's the sequence that you're going to go work in. And the second page, let's flip on over that parts list. These are the parts that they're going to need to find, maybe from a different bin in this shop floor, or they need to verify at least that the parts are available for them prior to assembly. If you notice, this may actually have more than 31 parts. There's a couple ways to rectify that. One is we can take the table and we can simply modify the font, and that's the easiest one. That's what we're going to do here. Take a smaller font and make sure that the font, that red border turns blue, indicating that all of the rows are now inside encapsulated in this. Another option that you can do if you want to keep a bigger font is you can link the table to another column or to the next page, allowing you to take a long parts list and span it across multiple pages or multiple columns in your document. I'm just going to stick with the easy one here. We'll probably have a different training session for working in more detail on parts tables and everything in the future. Let's see. Okay, moving on to the next page. If you're dealing with just a page that has text, you can just click these when you're in edit page mode, and you can easily go in here just like any other program that works with text. I can just type in my own custom text. I can import from different libraries, from Word or from RTF or from something you can import. Maybe you have warning instructions saved somewhere that you always put into your documents. You can do them that way. Another way is to copy and paste from a clipboard, so any arbitrary text can come in that way. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on text, but because it's pretty straightforward. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to create 3 different pages that are all very similar, but they're going to work with each of those 3 different configurations. So the first page we're going to create, and then we're going to save off a template that we'll use on future pages. So first, let's just take a new page, and we have, these are the templates that came in with that stock template that we chose at the very beginning, the one that was named under the instructions group named Interactive Assembly. So we're going to go ahead and just insert that one, and instead of the quick insert, we're going to customize it, and we're going to, not the master, the motor is the first thing we're going to work with. And so we will say finish, and that will insert us a page, and it will automatically set the view up with the motor configuration available to us. So one thing I want to do is, like we did before, go change the background to white. And then what we're going to do is set up a simple exploded view on this page, and we're going to discuss the markups briefly on this page. So let's go ahead and create a simple exploded view. Under Model, we'll just go Exploded View, New Exploded View, and I'll just keep the default name there. And you can see again we get a tab telling us we're editing this exploded view, and there's a Done button for whenever we're finished. And if you'll notice, the mouse cursor is now has that movement icon on there, meaning that if I click a part, it's adding this to a set. We actually want to do smart templates, or smart axis, which will automatically set our axis up. So now we can just pull these parts out using that handle, and that's the whole exploded view here. What we're going to do now is manually create a simple step-by-step process for this setting up this motor prior to the rest of the installation. So let's hit Done. We've got our exploded view, and let's go to Illustrate. Now, when we first created these illustrations, they were added to a default storyboard. It was automatically created when you created the document. We want to create a new storyboard for this page, so we're just going to go here and do New Storyboard, and we're going to give it a name, like I guess a symbol motor. And we'll hit OK. And then so now you see it blanked out. There's no illustrations captured here, and we're going to actually manually capture these for this one. So let's go ahead and select these parts, and then we will capture. We'll use the New button down here. We've been using this New button for capturing our illustrations. Additionally, there's a hotkey. I believe Control E captures an illustration without pressing a button. So let's hit New, and we will name this one Tighten the Screws. And that will get us started on the thing here. And we have that first illustration. This is a very simple process, so let's go back over to model. Let's now actually animate in reverse. So we get our exploded state back to nothing. And then we'll say, well, let's click the background, control click the background to deselect these objects. And then we'll say new. And we'll say motor complete. And then actually we'll do one last step. Let's take the viewpoint panel and let's look at the back side. How about from here? And move it over just a little because we're going to add a markup at this point. And we're going to have the part of the process be the testing the motor by hooking a battery up to it. So let's add one last illustration here, and we'll call this one test motor. It's a quality control piece here, and say OK. And we now have this one captured, and we're going to actually right click and we're going to edit this illustration. And you can see we have all that space to work with, so let's actually move it over a little bit. And if we go to the Illustrate ribbon, we can use any of these illustration tools. And in this case, we're going to use an icon from the library. And we'll just grab this battery icon and drag that out. And I'm going to right click, and it automatically looks like I added a thin border that I don't like, so I'm going to turn off that border by clicking that. And so we now have the battery here saying that this is the instructions for this step. So now if we take and review, I hit done to exit that, we can review our process here. Actually, I want to add a tool to this one. Let's do one last thing. We're going to edit an illustration here, move this one a little to the side, and we're going to add a screwdriver here showing the tool that's going to be used for this step. There we go. I'm going to position that, and then now we can say done, and we can review our process here. So we can take the first, we'll start at the very beginning, and if we click this transition between each one, we can play what the person on the shop floor will see, and we can test and make sure that the actions are going to be helpful for them and instructional for them. The last thing we want to do on this page, and then we're going to save this off as a template for our next 2 pages, is we want to add a field in here where we can put in the textual instructions, and we want to add textual instructions to each illustration. Let's go ahead and add the instructions first. So I will click on this guy here, and it says tighten screws, but maybe we want to give it a little bit more information here. So let's say tighten the screws using a screwdriver. And hit enter. And then on this one we'll say, okay, great job. You got it. Great job, comma, the motor is assembled. And then on the final one, we're going to say test the motor by applying a 9-volt test current. Something like that. Okay, so now we've documented each step along the way. If you can notice, as I flip through these, my text comes back from the different steps, but we have no way of displaying that textual information to somebody on the shop floor. They will not have this interface on the shop floor. This is an editing interface. So what we want to do is modify our document page to show this. So let's go back to our insert. Let's go into edit page, and let's move these buttons. So I'm going to select all of them using click and then shift click for the rest, and I'll just drag these down to here. And then we've now created a little nice area here that we can insert a text box. But it's not just a regular text box. What we want to insert is one of these special ones, and in this case, illustration. So these special ones next to the text box, you might have part text that will display metadata assigned to parts. In this case, we're going to display this metadata assigned to illustrations. So let's take the illustration text. We'll drag it all the way across, give ourselves plenty of room. And then we're going to go pick the fields that will be displayed there. So we'll pick only the description field. We could display the name if we wanted as well. Actually, let's just go ahead and do that. We'll display the name and the description. We'll center that, and we'll turn off this couple options there for how it's displayed. And let's give ourselves a little bit bigger font. There we go. So now if I go back and turn edit page off, we now get our title, the name of the illustration, and the actual procedure right below it. So as somebody steps through using the buttons on the page, you'll get motor complete. Great job, the motor's assembled. And then finally, test the motor by applying the 9-volt current. So going back to the first page here, we're going to save this off as a template so we don't have to do any of the page layout work on the next 2 pages. And those will be mostly concerned with giving a little more depth on how to use some of our Explode tools. We have smart template technology coming up, which means we're going to take exploded views and automatically generate the storyboard for more complicated processes. And then on the last final page, we will work with we have some new radial explode tools in there that makes it easy to explode things radially. So let's save off this page as a template. New page, and we're going to save a page template, and we'll just call this our work instructions page. That's the file name, and we'll do the same thing here, work instructions. So the template name is what will show up on a mouse over. I'll show you in just a second. So we save that off, and immediately as soon as we save that off, we're going to use it. So we're going to say new page. Here's the one we just saved off. You can see the title is work instructions. We're going to do a new page with work instructions, and we're going to customize this page. And instead of the motor this time, we're going to go to the assembly, the linear actuator configuration. And when we hit finish, it'll insert that template page, and we'll be in a position to where we can go and create this exploded view. Let's save off real quick. It's always good to save periodically. Let's just save it to our desktop. And when you save, it saves a QSD. That's a quadraspace document. That includes all your page information and your model. The model is brought in a lightweight format so that it's always saved completely with the QSD file, meaning you don't have to have references back to the original model. Okay, so let's go ahead and rapidly generate exploded view here for this model. Okay, so let's explode this object out. What we're going to do is explode this model in the reverse process, so it's going to be the opposite, and then we will generate the instructions going the other direction. So let's go to Model, Exploded View, and we'll do a new exploded view. And we'll just take the default name. And you can see now we're back in the editing exploded view mode here that it says edit exploded view 2, and then we have a done button for when we're finished. So let's go ahead and explode this guy out. Click that and that. Let's use a smart axis. And we'll just pull those out. Click that object and that screw. Pull those out. And we'll continue through here and pull the parts out. I'm just going to grab the O-rings here. So what I did was, once this one was out, if I wanted to add other parts to that same movement, you can control-click the parts that you want to add to that movement. So let's go ahead and pull on this side a couple out. And know there's another one here, so let's get where I can see that. We'll click this part, and then we'll add that one. Pull that handle. And you'll notice that I'm overlapping some parts here. That's not a big deal because they're going to hide and show automatically using our smart template technology. You'll really notice when we pull this one out. That'll pull all the way out. And we're going to add these O-rings to this step. And these. Okay, so now, take this. Almost got it. And before I can remove this, there's a couple pins in here, so I need to hold shift down in order to zoom, shift and right click, and pull these pins out. Now we can grab these two elements. And we're done. The motor was already assembled on the previous page. So we now have this exploded view, and we're ready to create a new storyboard of that assembly process. So the first thing you want to do before we're going into the area of using Smart Template technology here, or our storyboard wizard. The thing you want to do before you do that is set up exactly how the view looks. I like this. It's nice, crisp white with lined solids. And the viewpoint. This is going to be kind of like the template that the automation tools are going to use. So let's just take a good axonometric view, this isometric view here. And then we're ready. So let's go to Illustrate. We're going to do instead of a new storyboard like we did with the motor, we're going to do a storyboard wizard. And we're going to create a storyboard automatically using the exploded view that we just made. And we select that here, exploded view assembly, linear actuator. And we're going to reverse the steps because we want an assembly process, not a disassembly. We're going to select the parts just for visual, step by step we get to see which parts are being assembled. We're going to hide the unassembled ones. And then we'll include a view of the final state so that they know they're complete. And when I hit finish, what you'll notice is that will automatically create a storyboard with this step-by-step process, and you can see we get a lot of thumbnails already ready to go here. And if I click this, and actually if I just do storyboard and play through it, you will see, clicking this, it'll go all the way to the end. You'll see the animation that was automatically generated from that exploded view. And as we're watching here, notice how the parts appear as they're needed for the assembly process. And notice here I said that you wouldn't have to worry about parts overlapping because of the hide and show that's automatically happening there. And there you go. There's the assembled process. And the same thing on this page that we did on the, you could do here that we did on the motor page. You could go through, and we'll just do a couple here to show. Starting back here at the first. You can mouse over this. So what this is insert coupling. And we say install the coupling. Give it a little extra instructions here. Make sure that the fit is tight or something. Okay, so you can see as I type in this, the template now knows what to do with this information. So it's placing it here where we set up that text box on the page. And I'm not going to go through and do that, it's just time consuming, but as part of setting up your work instructions, you would just go through and type in your text for each of those step-by-step processes, and you would have descriptions for all of those ready to go. So let's go to our final page. Let's go back to home. We'll do a new page again, and we'll again use this template we created earlier. There's no need for us to resave a template and then reuse it. We already have it. So we're going to click use that, customize this page, and for the final one we're going to go all the way to the master configuration, to the gripper itself, and we will work on that assembly instruction. So it gives us a page with that whole configuration. I'm now going to go ahead and save off again. Save as, let's just give it a different name here. And then we'll be ready to work on this page. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is, again, we create, this is the same process as before. You kind of would repeat this process as the best practices for each configuration that you set up. The reason I'm going to do one more on this one is because I want to show our radial tools. If you notice, the gripper has three parts there that could use the radial. So let's go ahead and create this exploded view. Model, new exploded view, and what we'll do is just go in here and pull these out, rotating around. Now you'll see that the Smart template didn't give us a very good one there, so we're going to have to use the by face. So I'll click on a face that's pointing in the right direction, and then click the other one. And go over here and do the same thing. Alright, and now we're to the point where we want to use those radial tools. So let's get a good orientation here. Let's move over to the Smart again, and we're going to go to Radial Move Parts. And so I'll just start clicking these parts, and we get those 3. And what it'll do is, you can see I can now radially move those based on a common center. So we'll just move those out to here. And we'll continue along. We don't want any more radials. Let's go to just move parts and go ahead and pull this off. Looks like there's some screws in our way now, so we'll go ahead and grab these 2 screws. I think after we pull this one, we'll be, there you go. We're down to the state now of where we have this configuration and the new parts. And we've already put this configuration together on a previous page. So we'll say done. And let's get an orientation, and we'll use the automatic Smart template technology again. So let's just go back to that same one we've been working from. It's always kind of another good best practice, if possible, you keep the same orientation for multiple pages, and it keeps your shop floor guys kind of in sync with what you're looking at. So we have a good orientation. We go back to Illustrate. We run this again. Storyboard Wizard. Exploded view, and exploded view 3, that was the one we just did. And again, we'll take all 4 of these options, press finish, and it will go through and generate our final step-by-step process for this assembly. And you can see it's rendering the thumbnails here and goes all the way through, adding each of those. And your next step would be to go back and set up to go back and document that, adding the name, adding the description that would show up in this area right here. Okay, so let's move on to a couple quick last topics before we close up here. One of the first ones is, we've worked with templates throughout this. What I'm going to do is just do a new blank page. Now this will take and actually keep this is from the master page that we set up earlier, but it gives us nothing on the page. We have a blank page here, and we're free to do whatever we want. We can add text, we can add images. I just wanted to go through here and add an image real quick. Let's just click the top of this button here. Maybe you don't. You click this, select custom image, drag that out onto the document page, and then we can go and load something. So maybe we have a wiring diagram or something that's not from 3D data. You can just insert that into your work instruction packet. This could tell them how to wire it up once they have it assembled, or along the way, maybe right after we do the motor. We talk to them, put this page in there on wiring the motor together for that test or for the actual unit. The point is that you can bring multiple types of data into these packets. This is an image. You can bring text in. You can bring 2D CAD in if you have CAD things that need to be as part of your packet as well. The other things, just to point out real quick, if your 3D model, let's go back to the page with a 3D model. If your 3D model actually changes often in engineering, and you need to take this document and update it with new 3D changes, you can use the update functionality. And to use that, you just click the update button under the configuration ribbon, and you click this and browse to bring in the new model, the new solid assembly, the new inventor file. In this case, it would probably be a DWF. It's really key to make sure that it's probably the same format, because this functionality keys on the part names in order to match them up. And by doing that, though, it allows you to make sure that the exploded views you already created can be reused. The viewpoints that we have now can be reused. And it makes it really handy for reusing the whole thing. And then the last topic I want to talk about is saving off your own template. Saving your template so that it can be reused for whole other products or whole other projects. So let's just go ahead and save this one as our complete, let's call it 3, but this is our complete packet here for this product. And then we're going to kind of modify this a little bit before we save it as a template, and I'll tell you why. Okay, let's go back to the first page, and let's just look through each of our pages. We want this page in our template packet, so we're just going to leave that. We want this page also. We're going to leave that in here. We want this page as well. We'll leave that. And I guess the one thing I'm going to point out is that there's 3 of this exact same page layout already in this template, so there's no need to save all 3 of those. So what we're going to do is take and delete these other 2 pages of this so that we only have this going out in our template once. That's why I saved off the final packet, so we can delete these 2 without losing anything. And we'll keep this image one, sure. In fact, we'll just make it blank. We'll just keep it as an image. It's kind of a custom one, so I don't know what you would do. It'd be up to you. But anyway, so now we have a template. If you look down here, we're going to have 5 different layouts in this template packet we're going to create. And then if we do File, Save As, Quadraspace Template, and we'll just save that off. This is a QST file instead of a QSD, so it will not contain model data, but it will contain all the page layout data. So let's just do this real quick. Demo, we'll save that off, and we'll now have a QSD file that we can use for future projects that'll have our logo on it and the page layout and the interactive design, if you will, that we might want for future projects. So let's test it real quick. Let's close this one out. We don't want to save that QSD or we'll be overriding our actual project. And we're going to do a new from template. And if we go under the custom area here now, we'll see that here's our interactive template that we just saved off with the 5 pages. And if we click through those, we'll see our custom page here. We'll see our image page that we made here. So we select that one, and we're going to go select, and we're going to browse for a whole different model. We have this little power supply, so let's grab this solid assembly here. And we won't do anything with it, but I just want to show that we were now going to be set up to use the template we just saved off for future projects. And we'll really be down to just using the model work for the most part here and changing text and everything. So here that is. The process sequence that we set up is ready to go. If I quickly go make an illustration, you'll see how they just start to populate the sequence over here. Let's take just a couple just for demo here. And you can see how they go into this area, and we can easily click these and they'll be on our assembly packet, and every other page that we saved off is available as well. Same one here. If we actually had textual data to this, it would show up in the box here, and then we have our image page. So that concludes the work instructions demonstration here. I hope that there's some helpful tips and tricks in this. I think there's a lot of best practices wrapped in this with around the use of configurations, the use of smart template technology, the use of updating your document as the designs change. And this, as a reminder, this actual document would end up in Reader 3D on your shop floor. It's a very simple tool used for reading these documents where you can click through and view them without all the overhead of an authoring tool built into it. So that'll let them very easily interactively view these objects, interact with them, and get the assembly instructions done more rapidly and with less training necessary prior to actually getting assembly started. Thank you.